grab your snacks, hide your show mitts, ditch your reliance, and let's dive into this Big Brother drama with Kinda Unhinged. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another Big Brother video. And first, I want to apologize for my voice. I am currently sick, but we are on episode 39, the finale. So after 83 days, it has all come down to this: Ashley, Morgan, and Vince. So we began this episode right where we left off on the last episode. So we are at part 1 of 3 for the HOH competition. So in part 1, they have to hold on to this flying aircraft, and they have to hold on the longest. And this thing is spinning around, and they're getting sick. Like it's an endurance competition, basically. So Ashley is the first one to be eliminated from this competition. So we're down to Vince and Morgan. Vince falls, and now Morgan has secured part 1 of this HOH competition. So next we see Cody, who is the season 22 winner, come in to help the jury with their deliberations. But they have to meet the final member of the jury, and it's Ava, of course. I mean, some of the takeaways from the jury's deliberations is that they really have a hard time separating Vince from Morgan because they worked so closely together. So they don't know who is behind certain moves. Like, were these Morgan's moves? Were they Vince's moves? Or are they making them together? And then as far as Vince, they felt like he didn't have a very good social game at all because, I mean, he lied to everybody. He told them everything that they wanted to hear. And of course, part of winning this game is good jury management, and he just doesn't have it. But Rachel pointed out that they need to be fair and they don't need to be a bitter jury. And as far as Ashley goes, everybody felt like she had a great social game that made up for her not winning. So we get to part 2 of the HOH competition, and Frankie Grande is the host. So in this competition, there are 3 billboards made of blocks, and on the back of some of those blocks are pictures of the house guests. So they have to swing on a zip line and knock down all of these billboards so that they can build the faces of the house guests in a puzzle, and then they have to open up a clue that will give them a code to win the game. So considering that this competition looks like a hard competition, but they're both doing really well in the beginning. But Vince starts to pull away when he has all of his billboards knocked down and he is working on his puzzle before Ashley has even knocked down all of her billboards. So Vince is almost finished with his puzzle by the time Ashley starts working on her puzzle. So Vince reads the clue. They had to put the house guests in the order that they were evicted. So Vince read this as put the exact day that the house guest was evicted. He's like, all right, I know the days that they were evicted. Like, this is going to be easy. So he puts it in there. He hits his buzzer and nothing's happening. So he's like, okay, maybe I'm a little off. So he starts, changing days and hitting the buzzer, and it's not working, and he's starting to get frustrated. Ashley is doing the same thing because now she's at the point where she's able to start putting in her code. So Ashley's like, well, I must be doing something wrong. Let me reread the clue and see what it says. She rereads the clue and she realizes that it's asking for the order that they were evicted in, not the day. And she's like, all right, I need to be stealth about this because I don't want him to figure out what I just figured out. And like I said, he is still getting increasingly more frustrated. Now for me, I'm like, I understand that you got to be calm, but Ashley was putting those numbers on there a little bit too slow for me. I'm like, if you don't speed it up just a little bit. Vince is yelling like, what day is it? Like, he's very upset. And Ashley, she's just putting her code in. She finally gets it done, hits the buzzer, she wins. And he's still confused, like, what did he do wrong? And Ashley's like, come over here and look at mine and then reread it. So he does, and he realizes what the error was, and then he has a complete meltdown. I mean, a meltdown. And he's like, just vote me out. I don't deserve to go to the final. I don't deserve to win. Like, I'm stupid. It all came down to this. Like, I mean, he literally crashes out. And Frankie's just like, but yeah, that was a crazy moment. So at the beginning of this competition, they told us once this code was cracked, it would unmask the mastermind. And it does. It was Dr. Will. Dr. Will was the mastermind. After the competition, Vince is still very upset and he's crying. He's venting to Morgan how stupid he is and how upset he is. And she's like, Ashley couldn't figure it out either. Like, it's okay, you're human, it happens. And he's like, yeah, but she eventually figured it out. I never would have figured it out. Like, he was just crying, just typical Vince behavior. But I can understand that you work hard all season and it comes down to this and then you choke. I can understand that that would be upsetting and frustrating. And then he's like, I think you guys are going to take each other and you're not going to take me. Then we see Ashley look into the camera and say, all I got to do is win part 3 and then I'll make my biggest move by taking Morgan out. So we get to part 3 of the HOH competition. And in this competition, some of the jury members are being interrogated about knowing who the mastermind is, and they read off 3 statements. One of the statements is incorrect, and you have to pick the incorrect statement to get a point, and the person with the most points wins. So after only 4 statements, Ashley wins this competition 1-4, and she has now won parts 2 and 3 of the competition, and she is able to make the decision of who she will evict and who will sit with her at the final 2. So that competition was a live competition. So we go back to Julie, and Julie brings in the jury, and then the jury finds out who is the last juror, and they are just completely blown away when they see that Morgan is the final juror. They cannot believe it because I think many of them I thought Morgan was going to win this game. So now we're at the point where the jury gets to question the final 2. So Keanu asked Vince about his emotional manipulation tactics and how that led to very poor jury management. And Vince said that he wasn't trying to manipulate anybody. That was his true emotions. And Rachel asked Ashley, was her social game strategic and in what ways? And Ashley said that it was definitely strategic, that she aligned herself week after week with certain people in order to keep herself safe. And Ashley's answers were so polished and so good. Like, I really didn't see a world where Ashley was really a contender to win. But I think at the end, her arguments were very compelling and her wins were when needed. So after they were asked their questions, they were able to give their final statements. And in Ashley's statement, she brought up how she was able to bounce back from Showergate after being the biggest target in the house on week 1 and winning the power of veto and saving herself and being able to remain off the block for such a long time and aligning with certain players to put her in position to get where she's at. And she compared herself to Legally Blonde's Elle Woods, and she said that she allowed people to believe that they were manipulating her into making certain plays when that was never the case. That's what she wanted them to believe. And then Vince said that when he came into the game, he didn't have very much confidence, but he said that he won more HOHs than anyone else in the house. And he played his heart out. And he said, yes, he lied. Yes, he backstabbed, but that's the game of Big Brother. Now it was time for the house guests to vote for who they wanted to win the game. So after they all cast their votes, then we had a reunion when the pre-jury joined the rest of the jury. And Julie asked how many people had a final 2 with Vince, and 8 people raised their hand. And Julie also talked to Jimmy and Mickey and asked them, did they make up after, their alliance fell apart and she evicted him? And they said, yeah, that they had hashed it out. They asked Rachel about her frenemies alliance with Keanu and was it a real alliance? And she said that it was a real alliance, but she had other alliances that she was more loyal to. And we found out that Riley and Catherine are officially dating. Then they revealed to the cast who the mastermind's accomplice was. Of course, we already know it was Amy, but Morgan was very shocked because she couldn't figure out who it was. So speaking of the mastermind, well, it turns out that Dr. Will was framed and he was actually not the mastermind. And instead, the mastermind was actually 3 different people. It was Jesse, also known as Mr. Spectacular, Frankie Grande, and Eric from season 8. And all three of these players had one thing in common. They were taken out by a twist during their season. Of course, we can remember the coup d'etat with Jesse and America's player with Eric. So they said that they became the mastermind because if you can't beat a twist, become one. And there were clues all over the house and the entire season that these were the masterminds, but nobody figured it out, of course. So finally, it was time to find out who won Big Brother 27. And with a 6-1 vote, Ashley was the winner of Big Brother 27. Everyone voted for her except for Morgan, who of course voted for Vince. And then we found out that America's favorite player came down to Will, Rachel, and Keanu. But with 65% of the vote, Keanu won America's favorite player and $50,000. And then, of course, if you've been watching Big Brother Unlocked, then you know that they were playing Fantasy Big Brother. And Taylor won because her first round pick, Ashley, was the winner of the game. And that was it for this season. I think it was a great season. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with me this season. Stay tuned. There will be more Big Brother content in the future. If you like that, then please subscribe. And if you like this video, please hit the like.
Flurries, you better grab a life vest. Kristen.